So can you explain to me how did the procurement system in the case of Walvis Bay roads fail us and left us in the situation that we reached the stage that we are?
Well, first of all, Walvis Bay didn't have a chief executive officer for almost 4 years since we came into council.
Okay.
And so there was nobody to account to council. So the council's authority lies over the chief executive officer, which then in turns deals with the general managers, and they deal with the managers, and so it goes down on the hierarchy of how things work. So Walvis Bay didn't have a procurement manager all of these years.
Okay.
It was never there. Since we came in, we didn't find a procurement manager. That one has now been appointed. A CEO has also been appointed.
So appointing the procurement manager and the CEO is one of the rectifying things that the council tried to do to change what happened.
Yeah, first of all, getting a CEO on board. That was our main goal. A proper CEO on board. And that one we got now.
Okay.
So we knew if we can get the best CEO that we possibly can get, that Walvis Bay deserves, everything would start falling in place. And rightfully it has. Okay. Since our CEO came in, she then started to employ the procurement manager. We are now dealing with human resource issues. A human resource manager position has also been vacant for 20 plus years, general manager, human resource. So these are things that's currently falling in place. And also the balls to take decisions.
Yes.
And that one she has.
Okay.
Because we've been working with acting CEOs for 4 years. And they couldn't really take a firm decision on things because they were not substantive in that position. They were acting as CEO, but they still had their own departments that they needed to take care of.
Okay,
so the problem and I spoke to one of our managers, our general managers in that regard. The bid went out in almost, let's say, June last year.
Yeah, for the roads now.
For roads. And it couldn't be done because the procurement took forever to get the tender awarded. And once a tender is then awarded, then some of the other contractors would then object to this tender, and the process had to go back all the way. So it's been a norm. It's been carrying on this way for almost 1 year. We couldn't get a contractor on board.
And council can't intervene there at all.
You can't interfere at all. Then just as a contractor was about to be awarded, the rain came. And then you had to revise the scope of work once again. So it's a challenging process. And what we did now, we appointed contractors. The CEO appointed contractors that started working on the roads. And I think that many of you can see that in, I think it was the Windhoek Observer, that people said that they're taking the municipality of Walvis Bay to ACC because of tender corruption. But this was because somebody was bold enough to take a decision to award tenders because Walvis Bay's roads were falling apart. If we had to take those objections on and not start working, we would have never gotten to where we are now.
Okay, so that's because they use the clause of direct procurement.
Yeah.
Right? So that we can just start getting the roads fixed.
Yeah.
And now there's another objection that it's a... So now this is just I mean, even in my situation where I'm now an MP and we are going into depth in the different committees, you start seeing a lot of things and how... So my question now is, do you think some of this was deliberate sabotage? Or do you think it's a combination of I mean, why is the procurement process taken so slow? Why is there continuous objections? Why, do you think there's an element of that?
I think I'll allow the listeners to make their own determination on what they think is happening.
Yeah.
And what I can say, I think that there's a sense of entitlement also in the tender processing.
Yes.
Because certain people might feel that they are entitled to get certain tenders and whatever. But it doesn't work that way. Well, we need to get things done, and we need to get the best people on board to get things done. Walvis Bay, I think, if you look at the situation of our roads, what led to maybe direct procurement was it was an emergency situation. It was an emergency. We needed to get our roads fixed. Everybody was growing annoyed, was getting angry of how our road condition was looking, and something needed to be done.
Yeah, and now they even object to that.
Yeah.
So it is quite interesting because what I've also seen that, when you take the administrative side of things, right? Like they always say politicians get elected every 5 years, right? But the administration side of things, there's some people that have been there for 20 years inside the system.
Yeah, You will even have people thinking that you guys are temporary, we are permanent.
Yeah.
And I would like to believe that as the CEO is appointed on a 5-year contract, that we should start looking at, I think this was a suggestion we also made to the then minister, that we get general managers appointed on the same system of a 5-year contract being revised and renewed after you have proved yourself worthy of being in that position. And that is how you see CEOs staying or CEOs' contracts being ended.
Yeah.
Because they need to prove to council that it's worth keeping them in that position. Yeah. But then you also have a problem with continuation of councillors. You'll have this council sitting, and then after 5 years you have a new council coming in with different beliefs and different ways of wanting to do things. So the administration, as the administrative head, is very, very important to carry forth the work that's been done administratively. If you look at Swakopmund, for example, how Swakopmund has been doing, I don't even think Swakopmund councillors has the headaches that we have, because the administration is doing things as it should be done.
Yes.
In Walvis Bay now currently, I'm happy to say that we have a new CEO. Yeah. We have almost new general managers in every single position that is there. So we are hopeful for the future of Walvis Bay under the new leadership, administrative leadership, not only the political leadership, but under the new administrative leadership. I can see things going in the right direction.
Yeah, and I think what people should also understand is, IPC came from the outside in, right? Yeah. We found systems in place that we're like, but this is not a law, this is not a rule, this is just a practice that has been happening for 20, 30 years. And to change that system, it's a painful process, and you get a lot of pushback. But as the system starts changing and we put new things into place, it has a snowball effect. Yeah. And we're seeing the same thing coming into Parliament. How many systems are in place that is not functioning, and that basically corrodes the whole process. So there's one thing that I also want to mention on the procurement system. I think we all know that the procurement system is failing us, and besides the bureaucratic process, it's also how the corruption happens and where corruption happens. And I think people must also realize that if the administration part of it, and that's what SWAP has been using the procurement system for many years to give benefits to certain people. We know that. We can see that in the medical, we can see that in the health, we can see that all over. So we know that, and I think people need to understand that those administration functions of the towns, of the country, of the government is being entrenched and solidified by a lot of SWAPO people that hold these positions in there. And they've been using the procurement system and these things we are fighting that system. And I'm glad you gave me a bit of an outline of where the powers of the council lie, to know that the council can't directly affect that. And it takes time. That's why we're also having this conversation to bring it out. Yeah. Okay, but I want to go back to the roads now, because I think the procurement system and that issue is not the only thing. There's a few other factors also in play, and I'm going to name them so that we can elaborate on them. Yeah. So the first one that I want to tackle is that people need to understand how infrastructure maintenance works. If you invest in maintaining something, the investment is for 20 years from now. So when we got independent, all the infrastructure was invested to be able or maintained to be able to be sustained for 30 years. But you need continuous maintenance and continuous investment in the infrastructure. So after 30 years now, a lot of infrastructure is falling. So how does that affect the roads as well? Maybe you can give you an idea.
Not only the roads, the sewage system as well. You got a town with, for example, 30,000 residents. Yeah. Infrastructure was designed in such a way. But then as a government, as council, you were supposed to see that the town is growing rapidly. So you needed to make provision to accommodate that growth. Walvis Bay as a port, it's one of the biggest ports in the southern region, and it's feeding all of the landlocked countries basically. So we have trucks frequenting Walvis Bay on a regular basis. So if you do not do the upkeep and the maintenance of infrastructure, at some point it will fall apart. If you take a house, for example, and you haven't maintained that house for 30 years, and the new tenant has to come in and he has to fix that house, how will he fix a house that has been destroyed within 30 years in a period of 5 years? The same goes for infrastructure. We have had lack of supervision in many aspects in Walvis Bay municipality. You have bylaws, you have laws, you have policies that are so outdated, they don't speak to current times. We recently had to amend the housing policy We recently we are busy and we have amended the credit control policy just to give some relief and some assistance to residents of Walvis Bay, because these policies are seriously outdated. You have policies in HR that doesn't, in municipalities, that doesn't speak to the national policies anymore. They are so outdated, and that is the work of council. That is what council should be focusing on and doing, because your policies stand is your direct instruction to your administration to carry out the wishes of council through these policies. But to get back to your question, no proper maintenance on our road infrastructure has been done. The increase in trucks is there, the increase in residents. We are now at 130,000 people in Walvis Bay, and it's continuously growing. Walvis Bay is known as the oasis of opportunity. We have so many people coming here, and it also puts an added burden on infrastructure. But we are now currently busy. We have engaged the Roads Authority and Roads Fund to also assist the municipality, and they'll be fixing roads coming from the port, from the circle of Walvis Bay all the way to the port, and that's an investment of about $400 million that we have received from them. So council needs to be proactive. We need to be on the ground, and we need to know what is going on. No. And I think that was lacking in the previous council of Walvis Bay. They allowed administration to run the town as they saw fit, and they had no direct or indirect say in what was going on, or they did not care about what was going on. That is how you found Walvis Bay roads being in the state it is now.